our Central Texas family get ready to head back to school, some students are facing more challenges than others.
Yeah, so we want to introduce you to Kate Swann. Now, you teach deaf education at Temple ISD. Is it Kate or Katie?
It's Katie.
Katie. I knew it changed, but it didn't change in the thinking. So we know that some students are getting go to the regional school for deaf, and they're surrounded by people who can actually speak their language, which is very important, aka American Sign Language. But many deaf students, they're going to mainstream schools, and I want to ask what are some of the challenges and anxieties that they may face ahead of the first day?
So the primary one is going to be their amplification if they're not sure, like if it's a new hearing aid or like a new situation, if their hearing loss has changed over time, especially coming over summer. It's that whole panic of, oh my gosh, can I hear in the classroom? Is my equipment going to work? What if my batteries die? Things of that sort. But across the whole board, there's this thing called dinner table syndrome. You hear a lot about it in the holidays when families are coming together, and if they have a deaf adult or even a deaf student and everybody's talking together at the table and they miss everything. And there's nobody that's going to be there to help kind of facilitate that. That happens a lot in the classroom setting, especially when there's lots of background noise, even in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
If they aren't comfortable to sit with their friend, or if there's a larger group of friends, they're gonna miss everything that's happening on that side of the table, and then panic sets in because, oh my gosh, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Why are they laughing? And then they go, oh, I'll tell you later. Well, but I wanna know now.
Yes.
So they're not as involved and they're not as included.
Okay.
I can just imagine. I mean, even for myself, going back to school, the lunch table, you're like, oh my gosh, where am I going to sit? Am I going to meet people? Am I going to fit in? Like, who's my crew? And so that just adds on to it.
Absolutely. So how can parents encourage their students to connect with deaf classmates?
The biggest thing is just being inclusive. If you see someone sitting by themselves, maybe going up and going, hey, how are you? And like making sure that you're giving them your face. Even if kids are in a mainstream setting, so they're pushed out, seeing that facial cue is really helpful. Not necessarily to lip read, but to know that they're being talked to and that there's intent in that conversation. Do you know what
So
I'm
it's kind of like you're talking to them directly. So
yeah, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to talk over here but not look at you. I think a lot of times as hearing people, like we forget that.
Yeah.
Even as teachers, they'll turn and they'll talk this way, but they're missing all of those cues on the front end. So the biggest thing, being inclusive, saying, hey, what's up, and showing them your face.
I'm glad that you're here to talk about that, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about. I used to work with kids myself, and I just imagine how many times I'm like, okay, so do this, do this, do this, and it's like,
and you're missing all of this.
All of
Yeah, I worked with some kids who had hearing aids and stuff, so you just really opened my eyes to that. Well, hey, folks, coming up and a little later in the show, we know Katie will join us once again. But next time, we're going to be here to teach us some greetings in sign language so that our students can get the conversation going.
Yeah.
So I want you to stick with us.